Hey everybody, it's Preston from Bull City Reader, and welcome to today's video. So I got a question. What would you do if you got a phone call from a phone number that you were regretting getting a phone call from, and you have to answer this call? And when you answer the call, the person on the other line says, "I regret to inform you that sometime in the next 24 hours, you'll be meeting your untimely death. And while there isn't anything we can do to suspend that, you still have a chance to live." How would you live your last day not knowing how you were going to die? When you were going to die, you just knew that you were going to die sometime in the next 24 hours. What would you do? Would you conquer a fear? Would you hang out with your friends? Would you lock yourself in your room, eat Cheetos and watch movies? What would you do? So that's kind of the premise of the book that I'm going to be reviewing today. Today we're going to be reviewing They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. They Both Die at the End follows two teenage boys, Rufus and Mateo, and they both get the phone call saying that they're going to be dying during the day. They don't know each other at the beginning of the book, but there's an app that we learn about in the book called the Last Friend app, and in this app, the whole point of this app is to help people that are going to be dying that day connect with other people that are going to be dying in the day, or there are people in the world that want to help you have a better last day. Of course, there are some creeps on there, which you'll read about. But the app was intended to help you have a better last day, have a friend that you can hang out with, and that's why it's called The Last Friend. So the book is set in modern day New York. I believe somewhere in the book it references 2017, New York 2017, which I believe that this came out in, was it September or October of 2017. And there is some technology in the book that doesn't exist, like the Last Friend app, the Death Cast, and just a few other things. But for the most part, it's pretty realistic. Before we talk about the story more, can I just point out, I love this cover. I love how their shadows down here form a Grim Reaper. And if you look at the top in the sky, there's a skull. There's the two eyes, and then you got the nose. So I love the cover of the book. Very, very good looking cover. So what did I like about They Both Die at the End? The author, Adam, does a great job with the two main characters. So each chapter in the book is told from one of the boys' perspective. There are a few secondary characters sprinkled in throughout the book, but for the most part, you're going back and forth between the perspective of either Rufus or Mateo. And so he did a great job making their voices and their personalities distinct in their own. I heard somewhere in another review, they said they heard somewhere that the author said that you should be able to drop the book, whatever page it's on, you should be able to read what's in that chapter and know which character you were reading from. And that's true. They're both completely separate, and both have their own personalities. If I was more like one, I would say I was probably more like Mateo. He's a little, he has some fears. He's a little bit more careful during the day. He doesn't want to risk stuff. He's very careful at crossing streets, and that would probably be me. I have fears. I wouldn't do anything crazy. I wouldn't go skydiving, which he wouldn't, because I'd be afraid my parachute wouldn't open, and that's how I'm going to die. So anyway, he's more cautious, so I'm probably more like Mateo. Rufus is more of he grew up in a foster home, or he didn't grow up in a foster home, I'm sorry. Rufus lives in a foster home currently. He lost his parents, his family, and he's living in a foster home. So he's had a little bit rough lately, and so his personality shows that. So Adam does a great job with the characters, distinguishing them. They're great characters. I love the characters. They were great. But as we're talking about each character's characteristics, Rufus did something that annoyed me. And I had a physical book, and I didn't want to search and count like I could have done if I had the Kindle app. But he used the word mad a lot to describe things. And that kind of started to get on my nerves during the book. He would say stuff like, This brunette girl, mad pretty. Tego eats beans, even if it's mad loud outside. It's mad pressure to do all my living in one day. The world is mad cruel. Ed just got on my nerves after a while. I mean, it's almost in every chapter that he's in. It might not be in every chapter from his point of view, but it's a lot of them. Somewhere in there, he's going to use the word mad as an adjective, and it got on my nerves. It didn't get on my nerves to the point of putting the book down, but it did get on my nerves. Some of the negatives to the book for me, I wish I knew more about Deathcast. I don't know if there's going to be any more books in the series. I thought I heard somebody say that maybe he's hinted at doing some more, but of course it wouldn't follow our main characters because, you know, they both die at the end. So it's not a spoiler. It's in the title. I wish we knew more about Deathcast. I personally wanted to know where it came from, how the company came up with it, how it works, why they decided that we needed to call people and let them know they were going to die. Like, I wanted to know more about Deathcast. I know that's not supposed to be the focus of the book. We're supposed to be following these two boys as they go through their last day. But I wish that I knew more. I wanted to know more about Deathcast. So I wish there was more of a history, just a page or something. Tell me more about Deathcast. That's one of the negatives that I had about the book. But aside from that, I also did listen to the audiobook some. I do like to listen to audiobooks while I'm driving to and from work, because I'm in the car for it's like 50 minutes a day, just going to and from work. So sometimes I can knock out some reading on my way home. So I did listen to the audiobook, and they did have different narrators for each character, which I love when books do that. One of my favorite audiobooks, you can't see the book, it's right above me. You can kind of see the bottom of it above my head, the yellow and the blue. Sleeping Giants was my book of the year in 2016, and that audiobook is freaking fantastic. You have a different voice actor doing each character, and I love that. It makes following the book so much easier. So each chapter, Mateo has his own voice actor, Rufus has his own voice actor, and then the secondary characters are voiced by another voice actor. The one thing I do wish is when the boys were having a conversation, even though you were getting the conversation from one of the boys' point of views, I wish they would have thrown the other voice actor in there just to distinguish who was talking, because sometimes it could get a little confusing as to who was talking. That was the only downside to the audiobook, but it's a fantastic audiobook. Like I said, I read it, I listened to it so I could get through it quicker. I actually got through this book in a couple days. And like I said, I'm a slow reader, so for me to get through a book in a couple days is kind of, neat. It's not a hard read, as you can see. It's not a hard read, so it's not hard to get through this book pretty quick. But the story grabs you and moves you on, and you want to know what's going to happen. So, yeah, audiobook's great if you're an audiobook listener. If you need to choose between a book or the audiobook, I might recommend the audiobook. Just because it was very well done. But here is my issue with the book. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I gave this book, I was debating between 2.5 and 3 stars. Goodreads won't let you, and Amazon, they won't let you do half stars, or quarter stars or anything. So on Goodreads, I gave the book 3 stars. In reality, I would probably give it 2.75. I'd split the difference maybe between 2.5 and 3 stars. I had one big issue with this book, and I'm not going to read the book again because of this issue. A coworker wants to borrow it, and once they're done, if they don't want to keep it, I'm probably going to donate it to the library because I'm not going to read it again. And I probably won't read anything by this author because of the ending of this book. So, if you don't want any spoilers, don't watch the rest of this video. Just go ahead and cut it off. Thank you for watching and making it this far in the video. I will see you next time. with another review or another. I'm going to be doing some unboxings as well. So I don't know what video I'm going to do next, but anyway, I will see you at my next video. Just know, if you watch the rest of this video, I am going to spoil the ending of the book for you. So if you haven't read the book and don't want it like majorly spoiled, besides, you know, they both die at the end, if you don't want the ending completely spoiled for you, just go ahead and cut the video here. Alright, so you've stayed around, you don't mind some spoilers. You don't mind spoiling the book. So anyway, I was probably leaning towards giving this book 3.5 stars, maybe 3.75 out of 5 stars, until the very end of this book. Where I started knocking it down was probably when there was like 10 pages or less left in the book, is where I really knocked this book down. Here's my issue with this book. It's called They Both Die at the End. We know that they're both going to die. Even though we know that, there is still in your mind that hope that you have that no one has ever lived past the 24 hours. They tell you that in the book. No one has lived past the 24 hours. You're hoping that maybe these two boys will break the mold, and that they'll both survive. There's that small hope in the back of your head. And that's not what ruined the book for me. I'm fine with them dying because, hey, they both die at the end. So we know how Mateo died. He died in a house fire. Rufus got out. He's at the hospital. Goes and visits Mateo's dad in the hospital. I think wrote him a note. And he's leaving the hospital, going back to the park where he wants his ashes buried when he's died. And at this point, I think it's like 10:30 at night, so he's only got an hour and a half left to live, because he's got to die sometime in the 24 hours. So he's going back to the park. You go to another perspective, Victor. And Victor is actually the guy that called Rufus to let him know he was going to be dying that day. So anyway, Victor has a girlfriend, or had a girlfriend. It is, I'm trying to find her name, Delilah. Alright, Delilah. Delilah also gets the phone call during the day that she's going to be dying. She had just recently broke off her engagement to Victor. And so when she got the phone call, even though it's highly illegal for them to do this, she believed that it was a prank, that Victor was mad at her for breaking off the engagement, and so, she didn't live her last day the way that she probably would have lived her last day, because she thought it was a prank. She thought Victor had somebody he worked with call her and tell her she was going to be dying that day. So she's sitting in a cafe at the end of the book, which is right across the street from the park, right? You can already see where this is going. So she calls Victor. She decides to call Victor, and she asks him, I'm not going to try to find it. She basically asks him, did you do it? And he says, did I do what? And she says, you know what I'm talking about. Did you have somebody call me and tell me that I was dying today? And he said, you got the phone call? Where are you? Don't move. I'm on the way. He runs out of, he's supposed to be going into work. He runs out he leaves work, gets in his car, and starts driving to where she's at. Right? So then, next chapter, it's the last chapter of the book. It's Rufus's point of view. Rufus is watching a video. For those that don't know, and you're still watching the video, Rufus and Mateo end up realizing they like each other. They say they love each other. I had a problem with it. Felt too insta-love for me, and I didn't like it. They're like, oh, I'll never forget you. I'd always love you no matter what. And I don't know. I just had a whole issue with that whole insta-love thing. You've only known the guy for 12 hours or something, So I had a problem with the insta-love. But anyway, so he's watching a video that Mateo recorded, or they recorded of Mateo doing something. He puts in his headphones, and then it ends like this. Let me find it. I'm sorry. He says, I throw on my headphones and watch the video of Mateo singing to me. I see Aletha Park in the distance, my place of great change. I return my attention to the video, his voice blasting in my ears. I cross the street without an arm to hold me back. And then it's just a black page. I have the biggest issue with that. The biggest issue with that, okay? We know how everybody else has died. For those that need trigger warnings and you've made it this far into the video and you're still watching, there's a suicide bomber in the book who goes into a gym and blows himself up. There's someone there was going to be a shooting at a club that was stopped in the book. So we know how people die. We know that Mateo died in the house fire. Tell us how freaking Rufus dies. I mean, are we supposed to assume that Victor ran him over? I mean, is he even I mean, the park could be huge because it's in New York. The cafe's here, the park's here. He could be over here, you know, on the other side of the park, crossing the street. We don't know. You haven't set us up. You just lead us to assume that maybe he gets hit by a car, and he probably got hit by Victor, who was rushing to see Delilah that was in the cafe, but she's also supposed to die. So how does she die? Like, does he hit his brakes, try to miss Rufus, hit Rufus, and fly into the cafe and kill her? We don't know. You didn't tell us. I wish you would have wrapped the freaking book up. Tell us how Rufus died. Tell us how Delilah died. I'm sorry. I want to know. Maybe other people don't want to know, but I do. I want to know, how does Rufus die? Did he get hit by a car? Did he fall asleep in the park? They're in New York. Did he get mugged? Were the police doing something down the street and it was a stop that went wrong and he got caught in the there's crossfire. There's so many ways that you can die in New York. So how did he die? And how did Delilah die? Did Victor's car... Did he lose control and fly into the building and kill her? Did she see Victor hit Rufus, run out to the street and get hit by a car? Did she fall down a manhole? Did she get shot somehow? I mean, who knows? I wish he would have wrapped the book up. Can you tell that this pissed me off? I wish he would have wrapped the book up. He didn't wrap the book up. He kind of left it open-ending. I don't mind open-ending in books. There are books that have open endings and leave it to your mind as to what happened. Did something good happen? Did something bad happen? There's not that option in this book. He's supposed to die. She's supposed to die. So just tell us how they died. Just tell us. Anyway, that's what I had an issue with. This video is getting long, and I'm sorry. Thank you for sticking around. I know I got worked up at that, but that part really irked me, is he didn't tell us how they died. If he would have told us how they died, I would have given the book 3.5, maybe even 4 stars. I thought it was a good book. It makes you think about, what would you do? How would you change your life? And maybe you should just go ahead and make those changes now. It makes you think that, but he didn't wrap it up, left it open like that. I think it was completely the wrong way to end this book. That's why I give it 2.75 stars. That's why I will never read the book again. That's why I will never read anything by that author again. I just didn't care for it because of the ending. It just felt like he was just like, here you go. So anyway, guys, thanks for sticking around to the review. Tell me down in the comments, do you agree with me? Have you read the book? Do you agree with me? Are you happy with the way it ended? Do you wish you knew how Rufus died? Do you wish you knew how Delilah died? Am I completely off on this? Tell me down in the comments below what you think. Tell me how you rate it if you read it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications if you want to know when I post up a video, because sometimes subscribing just won't tell you. YouTube's weird that way. But subscribe to the channel. I'll put the link down to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Thanks for sticking around, and I will see you next time.